At 04:17 on a frigid January morning, the horizon over the frozen ridges of northern Italy was tinged with the faintest orange glow, the kind that promises day but delivers uncertainty. Sergeant Daniel Harper crouched behind the shattered remnants of a stone wall, his breath forming clouds that vanished into the biting air. He was alone, not by choice but by circumstance. His unit had been ambushed hours earlier, scattered like leaves in a storm, and Harper had been forced to take cover while the chaos swallowed the rest. His fingers tightened around the cold steel of his M1 Garand. Every muscle in his body was alive, every sense alert. He wasn't just fighting for survival, he was fighting for the lives of the men he couldn't reach, the ones who had been cut off, pinned down, waiting for someone to act. The enemy, a full platoon of seasoned Axis soldiers, had pushed deep into the valley, confident that a single Marine could not pose a threat. They were wrong. Harper had learned early in his training that fear is the most dangerous weapon a soldier can wield against himself. The enemy had numbers, yes, but he had something they did not: patience, knowledge of terrain, and a ruthless determination honed through months of combat in North Africa. He mapped every ridge, every broken tree, every shadow that might conceal a sniper or a machine gun nest. This was not a reckless charge, this was precision warfare in its rawest form. His heart beat in a measured rhythm, matching the silent cadence of the snowy valley. From the wall he could see movement, shadows slipping between rocks, the glint of bayonets catching the early light. Each step they took was calculated, each position fortified by a soldier who believed he was untouchable. Harper exhaled slowly. He had a plan, one that required him to move unseen, strike with the element of surprise, and dismantle a force 10 times his size. It was a gamble that most would consider insane. But desperation breeds ingenuity, and Harper was nothing if not ingenious. He shifted slightly, testing the stability of the snow beneath him. Every crunch of ice could betray him. Every snap of a twig might be the sound that ended the day for Harper. His eyes scanned the enemy lines, catching the reflection of a helmet here, the outline of a rifle there. And then he saw it, a formation moving along a ridge, unaware that they were walking straight into a trap. Harper adjusted the sights of his Garand, the cold metal grounding him, reminding him of the lives depending on this single moment. He visualized the sequence in his mind: the first shot, the reaction, the movement, the collapse of their formation. Time seemed to slow. The wind carried the distant echoes of gunfire from skirmishes that had already taken place. Harper's mind blocked everything but the task at hand. One wrong move and he would be dead before he could make an impact. But he had been trained for this. Every drill, every late-night exercise, every lesson from the instructors at Camp Lejeune had led him to this ridge. He exhaled again, slower this time, centering himself. The first target was the squad leader, distinguishable by the red armband and the confident stride that often precedes disaster for overconfident soldiers. Harper's finger brushed the trigger lightly. Then he waited, not out of fear, but out of calculation. The enemy advanced, oblivious to the deadly eyes watching from the shadows. And at the precise moment, Harper's first shot rang out, echoing across the valley, and the ambush began. The echo of the first shot still lingered over the valley when Harper moved, sliding along the broken wall to a new position. The enemy froze, confusion spreading like wildfire among their ranks. They knew something was wrong, but they didn't know what, and that hesitation was all Harper needed. His training kicked in, each movement calculated, deliberate, designed to exploit the smallest crack in their formation. He wasn't just a Marine now, he was a predator in a frozen jungle of stone and snow, unseen, unstoppable, and utterly focused. The squad leader he had taken out moments ago had been the key to their coordination. With him gone, the platoon hesitated, eyes darting, searching for a target that wasn't there. Harper adjusted his scope, counting the men, 25 in total, spread along the ridge, moving toward the valley below. They didn't notice the faint trail in the snow, the subtle depressions that led to Harper's position. To them, this was an open field. To Harper, it was a carefully choreographed battlefield, every ridge, every tree, every shadow accounted for. He fired again, 1, 2, 3 shots, each precise, each deliberate, each creating panic among the enemy ranks. The first man fell silently, swallowed by the snow, the next screamed and ducked behind a rock, the third barely had time to react before he crumpled to the ground. Confusion and fear spread faster than the cold, biting wind. Harper moved again, sliding low, barely making a sound. He knew the men were trained, experienced, and deadly, but they had never faced a ghost. They didn't know the Marine who moved like wind, striking without warning, disappearing before they could react. From his vantage point, Harper could see their fear growing. Their discipline faltered. Officers barked orders, but the words came too late, and the soldiers hesitated, unsure where the threat came from. Harper's advantage wasn't just his marksmanship, it was psychological. He was a phantom, a shadow, an unseen hand rewriting their fate. Each shot he took was a calculated strike to unbalance them, to force mistakes, to create openings for the chaos he planned to exploit. Harper paused, scanning the field. 5 were down, 10 more taking cover, the rest moving uncertainly, unsure of their positions. The wind shifted slightly, carrying the sound of his rifle differently now. He adjusted his stance, readying for the next sequence. His mind was calm, focused, devoid of doubt. Every heartbeat matched the rhythm of the operation, a silent metronome guiding his deadly choreography. And then he saw them, a small group of 5 moving toward the left flank, attempting to regroup. They were experienced soldiers, veterans of multiple campaigns. They had seen death before, but never like this. Harper calculated the trajectory, the distance, the wind, and the slope of the ridge. One shot at a time, one movement at a time, he would dismantle them. His first bullet found its mark, screeching through the cold air, striking one in the shoulder. He rolled slightly, firing again, the second man going down before he could react. The remaining 3 scattered, running for cover, only to meet Harper's next calculated strikes. As the sun rose higher, its light glinting off rifles and snow, the platoon's formation had collapsed entirely. Harper had become the embodiment of precision and patience, his every action amplifying the terror in the enemy ranks. He paused briefly, letting them think he had vanished, letting them make more mistakes. It wasn't just about killing, it was about control, about shaping the battlefield with fear and skill. And then he moved again, positioning himself closer to the center of the ridge, unseen, unheard, unstoppable. Every step was silent, every motion deliberate, every breath controlled. The remaining soldiers were in chaos, disoriented, reacting to shadows and imagined threats. Harper's presence was everywhere and nowhere, a force of nature against a platoon that had believed in numbers over strategy, in confidence over caution. By the time the first reinforcements from his own unit began arriving, the enemy had been decimated, their morale shattered, and their formation destroyed. Harper stood alone, the snow around him marked with the chaos he had orchestrated, the ridge now silent except for the occasional moan of the wounded and the hiss of retreating soldiers. One Marine had taken out an entire platoon, not by brute force, but by calculation, patience, and the cold, terrifying precision of a single mind in control. Harper didn't pause to celebrate or even catch his breath. The ridge was quiet now, but he knew that calm was temporary, deceptive lull in a storm he had yet to fully unleash. He scanned the area, noting every shadow, every glint of metal, every movement in the distance. Even the slightest motion could be a threat. Even a whisper of sound could give him away. His mind was a predator's mind now, calculating, anticipating, planning 3 steps ahead of anyone who dared challenge him. He began moving down the slope cautiously, using the terrain for cover. Each rock, each depression, each tree trunk was a shield in his silent war. He needed to secure the ridge entirely. Leaving even a single enemy soldier alive could compromise everything he had accomplished. The platoon had been experienced, disciplined, and lethal, but they were now scattered, broken, and terrified. Fear was a weapon Harper wielded as skillfully as his rifle. From his vantage point, he noticed movement at the edge of the forest, a small squad of enemy soldiers trying to regroup. They were checking for survivors, communicating silently, but their confusion was palpable. Harper adjusted his scope, estimating distance, angle, and wind. Each shot would need to be perfect. There was no margin for error, no second chances. His hands were steady, his breathing controlled, every muscle tuned to a single purpose: neutralize the threat. The first shot rang out, muffled slightly by the thick underbrush. One soldier crumpled silently to the ground. The others ducked instinctively, scanning the shadows, eyes wide with panic. Harper moved again, silently repositioning behind a large boulder, recalculating, reloading, preparing for the next sequence. Each movement was deliberate, each decision calculated. He wasn't just killing, he was orchestrating fear, creating uncertainty, forcing mistakes before they even occurred. Another volley of precise shots tore through the squad, each one eliminating the most dangerous threats first. Harper's tactics weren't random, they were strategic. He targeted the officers and the soldiers who seemed most likely to coordinate a counterattack. He was dismantling their command structure, leaving confusion in his wake. The psychological impact was immediate. The remaining enemy soldiers were frozen, unsure where to move, unsure where Harper might appear next. Harper continued his advance, using the broken terrain to his advantage. Snow crunched softly beneath his boots, but he had learned to step lightly, to mask his movements, to blend with the environment. The remaining platoon members tried to retreat, but their paths were predictable. Harper anticipated each movement, placing himself in positions that allowed maximum control with minimum exposure. He wasn't just surviving, he was dominating, a single Marine against an entire platoon, turning chaos into his ally. Hours passed, though it felt like minutes. Harper's patience and skill were tested with every step, every shot, every decision. The enemy tried to regroup, calling out orders, moving cautiously through the broken landscape, but Harper was always one step ahead. His focus was unbreakable. His mind was clear. The adrenaline surged, but it was controlled, sharpened into deadly precision. By mid-afternoon, the last vestiges of resistance had been neutralized. Harper stood atop a small rise, surveying the aftermath. The enemy platoon was no longer cohesive. They were scattered, demoralized, and defeated. His careful, deliberate strategy had turned what could have been a deadly engagement into a one-sided operation. One Marine had single-handedly decimated an entire platoon, not through reckless aggression, but through calculation, patience, and ruthless efficiency. As reinforcements approached, Harper allowed himself a brief moment of relief, but he didn't relax. There was still work to be done, securing the area, accounting for wounded, and ensuring that no remnants of the enemy could mount a counterattack. Every step, every observation, every decision mattered. Harper was still in control, still the unseen force shaping the battlefield to his advantage. The legend of Harper's solo operation would grow, but in that moment he remained focused, a silent guardian of the ridge, ensuring that every threat was neutralized and every life on his side preserved. One Marine had rewritten the rules of engagement, proving that skill, strategy, and psychological mastery could overcome overwhelming odds. The forest ahead was silent now, almost too silent. Harper's senses remained on high alert, each rustle of leaves or snap of a twig sending microsignals through his body. He knew that even the most disciplined enemy could hide in plain sight, waiting for a single lapse to strike. His rifle, fitted with a custom scope, was an extension of his will, every adjustment, every aim a seamless part of his mind's calculations. He advanced cautiously, using fallen logs and rocky outcrops as cover. Each step was deliberate, each pause intentional. Harper understood the psychology of fear better than anyone in that platoon ever could. The soldiers he had already neutralized had fallen not just to his bullets, but to the anticipation of danger they could sense but not locate. Harper's mastery of the battlefield extended beyond marksmanship. It was the art of controlling perception. Ahead, a cluster of enemy soldiers huddled near what remained of their command post. They were whispering, exchanging hurried gestures, attempting to reorganize. Harper slowed, dropping to a prone position behind a rock that offered a perfect line of sight. The wind was shifting slightly, carrying the scent of damp earth and pine. He adjusted for it, calculated the bullet drop, and squeezed the trigger. One soldier slumped silently, the others unaware for a moment that their position had already been compromised. Harper didn't give them time to react. Moving silently to a new vantage point, he waited only a few heartbeats before engaging again. Precision, not volume, was his mantra. Each shot was deliberate, neutralizing the most immediate threats and creating an atmosphere of chaos among the survivors. The remaining soldiers were now trapped between fear and uncertainty, unable to trust their instincts, paralyzed by the knowledge that danger could be anywhere. He crept closer, keeping low, and noticed a group attempting to flank what little cover they had left. They were inexperienced and tense, moving erratically, betraying their positions. Harper marked them silently, calculating angles, timing, and trajectory. His first shot downed the leader, and the second struck a soldier trying to climb over a fallen tree. Panic rippled through the group as they realized their strategy had failed. Harper had earned their coordination into disarray, dismantling their will to fight without exposing himself to unnecessary risk. Minutes stretched like hours as he continued his meticulous sweep. The enemy platoon was seasoned, trained to anticipate ambushes, but Harper was no ordinary adversary. He read patterns, predicted movements, and exploited mistakes as they occurred. Every calculated kill increased his tactical advantage and heightened the psychological pressure on the remaining soldiers. Fear was now his ally, a tool that kept the platoon fractured and reactive rather than proactive. At one point, Harper paused behind a moss-covered boulder, surveying the devastation he had wrought. Bodies lay scattered, equipment abandoned, and the forest floor was littered with the remnants of failed resistance. He allowed himself a moment of mental inventory, noting positions, potential threats, and escape routes. His situational awareness was absolute. He was a single operative controlling the battlefield with a mastery few could comprehend. The enemy wasn't finished yet. A small contingent had taken cover in a ruined structure, firing sporadically to slow his advance. Harper analyzed the angles, noting that their position offered limited visibility and poor cover. He approached with deliberate stealth, positioning himself for a shot that would neutralize the threat without alerting any others. The result was instantaneous, a single, precise round, and the final group was incapacitated. By now, Harper had systematically dismantled an entire platoon. It wasn't brute force that had won the day, it was patience, precision, and a profound understanding of both terrain and human psychology. Each enemy soldier had been eliminated not only physically but mentally, stripped of confidence and cohesion long before the first bullet struck. As he stood, the adrenaline subsided slightly, leaving a tense awareness in its wake. The ridge was his, every inch surveyed, every potential threat neutralized. Harper had achieved what most thought impossible, one Marine against a full platoon, emerging victorious without sustaining a single casualty. His presence alone had rewritten the rules of engagement, demonstrating that individual skill and tactical genius could eclipse numbers and firepower. Harper didn't linger long in the aftermath. Victory in isolation was only half the battle, extraction was just as critical. Every footstep now carried the weight of the unseen, every shadow a potential threat. He moved methodically, scanning the perimeter, listening for the subtle sounds of movement, rustling leaves, snapping twigs, even the faintest whispers of wind against the terrain. In his mind, he was mapping exit routes, calculating risks, and preparing contingencies. The forest that had served as his hunting ground moments earlier now became a maze of uncertainty. Fallen branches crunched softly underfoot, each sound a potential giveaway. Harper had learned to adapt, using the natural acoustics to mask his presence. By hugging the slopes, using ditches and depressions, and moving against the wind, he made himself virtually invisible. This wasn't just stealth, it was mastery. Each decision was a product of instinct honed by relentless training and battlefield experience. As he navigated toward the extraction point, Harper encountered a small squad of enemy stragglers. They were inexperienced, anxious, and unaware of the chaos surrounding them. He observed silently, calculating the most efficient approach. A misstep now could expose him or alert others still lurking. Instead of rushing, he used deception. Rolling a rock down the slope, he created the illusion of movement elsewhere. The squad's attention shifted, and Harper slipped past them unnoticed, moving closer to the ridge that marked his planned exit. The psychological game continued to play out. Harper knew that fear could be a more potent weapon than bullets. The remnants of the platoon were scattered, disoriented, and constantly anticipating threats from directions they couldn't predict. Even if reinforcements arrived, the memory of Harper's precision and patience would linger, slowing their reactions and making them hesitant. His reputation, forged in the chaos of those few hours, was now as powerful a tool as his rifle. Halfway to the ridge, he paused to assess the terrain. A shallow stream cut across his path, glinting in the morning sun. Crossing it would create noise and risk detection, but staying longer in the open was even more dangerous. Harper took a deep breath, adjusting his equipment and posture. Timing his movements with the distant sound of artillery fire in the valley below, he stepped into the stream, letting the water mask his approach. Each movement was deliberate, controlled, and measured. Ahead, the ridge offered a clear line of sight to friendly positions. Harper's heart rate remained steady. Adrenaline had sharpened his senses, not clouded them. He scanned the tree L&E for any sign of enemy observation. The shadows shifted with the rising sun, and he used them to his advantage, merging with the darkness beneath thick foliage. Every step brought him closer to safety, yet the tension remained palpable. One miscalculation could undo hours of meticulous planning. As he neared the extraction point, Harper noticed a small group of enemy scouts attempting to converge from a nearby valley. They were moving cautiously, but their pattern was predictable. Harper used the high ground to his advantage, selecting a vantage point that allowed observation without exposure. Through careful timing, he created a diversion, a fallen branch, a displaced rock, and the enemy reacted instinctively. They believed the noise indicated his position, yet Harper was already several hundred yards away, moving toward his exit. Finally, Harper reached the ridge. From here, he could see the open terrain leading to friendly lines. The distance was manageable, but still fraught with risk. His mind ran through contingencies: if they spotted him, if they called for reinforcements, if snipers remained hidden. Yet his training, intuition, and battlefield experience had prepared him for this precise moment. Every previous decision culminated in this controlled movement toward safety. Crossing the final stretch required no further engagement. Harper's mastery over his environment, combined with his relentless precision, had neutralized all immediate threats. By the time he reached friendly lines, the platoon that had once been a cohesive force was shattered, both physically and psychologically. Harper emerged not just as a survivor, but as a strategist, a tactician, and a testament to the power of individual skill in modern warfare. After crossing into friendly lines, Harper finally allowed himself a brief pause. His body ached, muscles screaming from the hours of exertion, yet his mind remained sharp, cycling through every detail of the operation. Every shot fired, every step taken, every maneuver executed had been deliberate, calculated. The platoon he had faced, once bristling with coordinated defense, now lay neutralized, their plans unraveling under the precision of a single Marine. But Harper knew the mission wasn't over until the intelligence gathered from the battlefield had been properly assessed and the strategic consequences understood. Inside the temporary command post, the commanding officer, Major Daniels, greeted him with a mix of incredulity and cautious admiration. "You cleared them by yourself?" Daniels asked, gesturing toward the maps and radio logs that chronicled the operation. Harper nodded, recounting the sequence of movements, positions, and timing, his voice steady, his tone factual. He deliberately avoided embellishments. The focus was on clarity, not dramatics. The meticulous documentation would later serve to improve tactics for other units facing similar challenges. The debriefing was methodical. Harper outlined the enemy positions, their defensive patterns, and how he had used environmental cues to remain undetected. Every detail mattered: how the shadows shifted throughout the day, how the enemy's fear and anticipation could be manipulated, and how sound could be weaponized to divert attention. The major took notes, occasionally asking pointed questions, particularly about how Harper had maintained situational awareness while moving through terrain that could have concealed multiple hidden threats. Beyond the immediate tactical outcomes, Harper's actions had a psychological impact. The enemy had been disciplined, well-trained, yet the sudden, precise disruption caused by a lone Marine shattered their confidence. Rumors would spread among other units, whispers of a Marine who could move like a ghost, whose marksmanship rendered entire squads ineffective. Fear is as potent as firepower, Harper knew. By eliminating the platoon so efficiently, he had created a ripple effect, undermining morale far beyond the immediate engagement. Harper's report also emphasized lessons learned for friendly forces. His techniques, stealthy movement, using natural cover, and anticipating enemy responses were all replicable, but required rigorous training and disciplined mental focus. The major suggested that Harper lead a series of training sessions, translating his field experience into actionable skills for other Marines. This was a turning point. Harper's individual accomplishment became a catalyst for institutional improvement, ensuring that his tactics could save lives in future operations. Sleep finally came in short bursts, each interval punctuated by the adrenaline still lingering in his system. In the quiet moments, Harper reflected on the operation. The paradox was clear. In a conflict defined by large-scale maneuvers and coordinated units, an individual's skill, patience, and intuition could still exert disproportionate influence. Every rifle, every step, every calculated pause had added to A cumulative effect, one that turned the tide of that isolated encounter. The battlefield was chaotic, unpredictable, yet through precision and discipline, order could be imposed. Meanwhile, intelligence units began to analyze the remains of the platoon. Captured journals, maps, and field notes revealed a stark contrast between expectation and reality. The enemy had planned for a coordinated defense, relying on numbers and entrenched positions. Instead, their weaknesses, predictable patterns, overconfidence in concealment, and failure to anticipate an individual's ingenuity, had been exploited. Harper's operation became a case study in asymmetrical tactics, a lesson in how initiative, combined with mastery of skill, could overcome numerical disadvantage. Back at the command post, Harper's presence drew attention from senior officers. They were fascinated not just by the effectiveness of the operation, but by Harper's analytical approach. He didn't rely on luck. Every decision was grounded in observation, training, and understanding of human behavior. For them, Harper's actions highlighted the importance of empowering individuals within a military hierarchy, allowing initiative to complement structured strategy. It was a rare convergence of discipline and creativity. The broader operational impact became clear over the next week. The enemy, demoralized by the sudden loss of an entire platoon, began withdrawing from other contested areas. Reconnaissance reported hesitancy in movement, increased caution, and disrupted coordination. Harper's engagement had achieved more than the immediate tactical objective. It had reshaped the local theater of operations, imposing uncertainty on the enemy and buying strategic advantage for his side. In military terms, this was an exponential effect. One Marine, acting with precision and awareness, had amplified the effectiveness of an entire division. Amidst this success, Harper's personal reflection was tempered by the realities of war. Every skill he had relied on, every marksmanship technique, every calculation of risk had involved taking human life. The weight of that knowledge was ever present, yet Harper's discipline allowed him to compartmentalize, focus on the mission, execute with precision, and leave emotional judgment for later. This balance of calculated action and emotional awareness was what allowed him to operate effectively in environments where hesitation could prove fatal. Word of Harper's exploits began to spread through the ranks, first quietly, then more widely. Fellow Marines respected the combination of skill, patience, and courage, while officers recognized the strategic significance. Yet Harper remained modest, emphasizing collective responsibility and the lessons that could be drawn, rather than personal glory. For him, the operation was not about heroics. It was about precision, effectiveness, and the preservation of as many lives as possible through mastery of the craft. The impact on training protocols was immediate. Harper's experience informed curriculum adjustments for advanced marksmanship courses, fieldcraft training, and tactical reconnaissance. By analyzing real-world application of theory, trainers could provide recruits with practical skills grounded in lived experience. The military's institutional knowledge evolved, integrating Harper's insights into doctrine that would shape the next generation of Marines. Even as the weeks passed, Harper remained vigilant. Every mission carried risk, every environment demanded awareness, and every decision had consequences. Yet the confidence instilled by this operation allowed him to approach future engagements with clarity and poise. Harper's story became a blueprint for understanding how one well-trained, disciplined individual could navigate chaos, exploit opportunity, and influence outcomes far beyond the immediate battlefield. The weeks following Harper's solo engagement were a mix of operational intensity and quiet reflection. While his peers continued their rotations and patrols, Harper was assigned to a series of reconnaissance missions in the surrounding territory. These were not merely routine scouting operations. They were strategic opportunities to test his own limits and refine the techniques that had proven so effective against the platoon. Every mission demanded a blend of patience, observation, and the ability to adapt rapidly to unexpected developments. In many ways, Harper had become both student and teacher simultaneously, using real-time experience to validate his methods and anticipate enemy behavior. The first assignment after the major engagement involved mapping enemy supply lines. Harper moved through dense forest and uneven terrain, often alone, relying on minimal equipment. Each step required constant vigilance. Broken branches, disturbed foliage, and subtle variations in soil texture provided crucial information about enemy presence and movement. Harper's approach was methodic. He would pause for minutes at a time, scanning from multiple vantage points, letting his eyes adjust, listening for patterns and distant sounds. It was a process that combined skill with instinct, honed through years of disciplined practice. Unlike larger units, which often left trails of noise and visibility, Harper's movement was almost imperceptible, leaving no detectable traces behind. During one particular reconnaissance near a river crossing, Harper observed enemy forces attempting to establish a temporary camp. Using the techniques he had refined during the earlier operation, he noted the placement of sentries, the rotation schedule, and even small behavioral patterns of individual soldiers. He realized that minor details, such as the timing of footfalls and the angle of rifle handling, revealed critical weaknesses in their operational awareness. This intelligence, once relayed to command, allowed the larger unit to intercept the enemy efficiently with minimal risk. Harper's contribution was not only tactical, it altered the strategic posture of the force by demonstrating how precise observation could reduce casualties while maximizing operational effect. However, these missions were not without psychological strain. Harper was acutely aware that at any moment a misstep could mean death. He often found himself reflecting on the soldiers he had faced and those he had engaged. Unlike large-scale operations, these encounters were intensely personal. One misjudgment could lead to immediate, irrevocable consequences, yet Harper maintained his discipline through a rigorous mental framework. He compartmentalized fear and anxiety, converting them into heightened awareness rather than allowing them to disrupt his decision-making. In moments of extreme tension, Harper's focus became almost hypnotic. The jungle, the riverbanks, the subtle shifts in wind and light, all were absorbed into a heightened situational understanding that few others could achieve. By mid-month, Harper's reputation had grown among both officers and enlisted men. His initial engagement, though remarkable, was now contextualized within a broader series of operations that underscored his reliability and strategic insight. Fellow soldiers began seeking his advice on camouflage techniques, rifle handling, and movement strategies. Harper was initially hesitant to share, understanding that knowledge carried power and responsibility. But over time, he recognized that imparting his expertise could save lives and improve mission success rates. Training sessions were informal at first, small groups practicing observation, stealth movement, and rapid engagement. Yet even these exercises reinforced the principle that one highly trained individual could exponentially increase the operational effectiveness of a unit. Amid these practical applications, Harper also grappled with the broader implications of his work. He was acutely aware that his methods, though effective, reflected a changing nature of warfare. Precision, individual skill, and adaptive tactics were becoming increasingly significant, particularly in environments where conventional force multipliers like artillery or numerical superiority were less effective. Harper began keeping detailed notes on environmental interactions, ammunition performance, and enemy behavioral patterns. These records would later serve as foundational material for military manuals and training curricula, ensuring that his personal experience translated into institutional knowledge. The psychological impact on enemy forces became apparent during subsequent engagements. Units that had once been confident and well-coordinated displayed hesitation, often altering patrol patterns and employing defensive measures inconsistent with prior doctrine. Harper's initial operation, followed by ongoing reconnaissance and precision strikes, created a perception of omnipresence, a single Marine capable of disrupting entire squads. Intelligence reports highlighted that morale among opposing units had decreased significantly, emphasizing how psychological influence could amplify the effectiveness of tactical decisions. In essence, Harper had become both a literal and symbolic threat, one whose presence altered enemy behavior without direct confrontation. As operations progressed, Harper also faced the challenges of coordination with larger units. Unlike solo engagements, these missions required synchronizing timing, movement, and communication with squads, platoons, and command elements. Harper had to adjust his approach, balancing stealth and autonomy with the necessity of integration. He refined signal methods, prearranged movement markers, and low-visibility communication techniques. The goal was to maximize efficiency without compromising the element of surprise or the safety of his team. These adaptations reflected a key evolution in Harper's tactical philosophy: mastery of individual skill combined with strategic cooperati. One could achieve outcomes unattainable by either approach alone. Personal reflection remained a constant companion. Each success was tempered by the weight of action and consequence. Harper understood that his ability to survive and succeed depended not only on skill, but also on respect for the environment and the enemy. The jungle, with its hidden dangers and unpredictable conditions, demanded humility and adaptability. Harper's methods emphasized patience, observation, and anticipation, countering raw aggression with calculated action. This balance between discipline and initiative became a defining characteristic of his approach, differentiating him from peers who relied primarily on numerical strength or conventional tactics. The culmination of these operations showcased Harper's evolution from an exceptional marksman to a tactical innovator. His solo engagement had demonstrated the potential of individual skill, while ongoing missions validated and expanded those techniques in broader operational contexts. Harper's actions had a compounding effect. Each operation informed the next, creating a continuous cycle of observation, adaptation, and execution. Officers recognized the value of this iterative approach, incorporating Harper's insights into tactical planning and training programs. Over time, this approach would influence doctrine far beyond the immediate theater, shaping methods used by future generations of Marines. The final weeks of Harper's deployment were defined by a mixture of intense operational activity and an almost surreal calm, as the enemy forces had been sufficiently disrupted that large-scale engagements became rare. Yet for Harper, the absence of direct firefights did not reduce the stakes. Every movement, every patrol carried the weight of potential danger. He approached each day with the same meticulous planning, the same unwavering focus that had characterized his initial engagement against the platoon. In many ways, Harper had become a living standard of precision and professionalism, a benchmark for both his peers and those in command. During one reconnaissance along a narrow ridgeline, Harper encountered evidence of an enemy unit attempting to reorganize after previous skirmishes. The signs were subtle: a disturbed patch of soil, the faint imprint of boots in the mud, remnants of hastily abandoned supplies. Harper's ability to read these traces was unparalleled. He moved silently inch by inch, assessing the situation and predicting the enemy's next actions. At each step, he evaluated not only the physical environment, but also the likely mindset of the enemy soldiers. This psychological aspect of warfare had become as critical as marksmanship. Understanding fear, expectation, and human behavior allowed Harper to anticipate movements before they occurred. This mission illustrated a key principle of Harper's tactical philosophy. Control of perception could be as effective as control of terrain. By manipulating what the enemy believed about his presence and capabilities, Harper achieved effects far beyond what sheer firepower could produce. He left subtle traces of movement in multiple areas, creating the illusion of a larger force. Enemy patrols reacted cautiously, overcompensating for threats that existed largely in their perception. Harper's influence extended beyond his immediate actions. He became a force multiplier, leveraging psychological dominance to shape the battlefield. Beyond reconnaissance, Harper also engaged in targeted operations designed to neutralize remaining threats. Using carefully prepared ambushes, he disrupted supply routes, intercepted communications, and incapacitated key personnel. Each strike was surgical, executed with a blend of patience and decisiveness. Harper's methodology emphasized observation first, engagement only when success was virtually guaranteed. This approach minimized risk to himself and others while maximizing operational impact. Through these actions, Harper demonstrated that the application of skill and foresight could substitute for numerical superiority, fundamentally altering the dynamics of small unit engagements. The cumulative effect of Harper's operations became apparent to both his unit and higher command. Reports indicated that enemy activity had slowed significantly. Supply lines were disrupted and morale had deteriorated. Soldiers who had once operated confidently were now hesitant, adjusting their tactics in ways that revealed fear of an unseen opponent. Harper's influence was no longer limited to his immediate vicinity. It radiated outward, affecting larger operational patterns. The success of these missions reinforced the principle that one highly trained, observant individual could disproportionately influence the outcome of complex military operations. Harper's personal discipline extended beyond tactical execution. He maintained detailed records of terrain, enemy behavior, and weapon performance, creating a repository of intelligence that would inform future operations. This documentation reflected both strategic foresight and a desire to institutionalize his lessons. Harper understood that while individual action could achieve remarkable results in the short term, enduring military effectiveness depended on transmitting knowledge. The intelligence he collected was later integrated into training programs, ensuring that future soldiers could benefit from his experience and replicate his successes under varying conditions. Despite the intensity of operations, Harper also experienced moments of reflection and introspection. In quiet periods, he contemplated the broader implications of his actions, the lives he had taken, the impact on the enemy, and the evolution of warfare itself. These reflections did not diminish his resolve. Instead, they sharpened his understanding of responsibility, ethics, and the delicate balance between survival and strategic necessity. Harper's approach combined lethal precision with a conscientious awareness of consequence, reinforcing the human dimension of combat that often goes unacknowledged in discussions of tactics and engagement. As Harper's deployment drew to a close, the final operation symbolized the culmination of his efforts. He led a small team into a strategically vital area where intelligence indicated the remaining enemy forces were consolidating. The operation required a synthesis of all Harper's skills: meticulous planning, environmental awareness, precise marksmanship, and psychological insight. Each team member had been trained by Harper, internalizing his methods and understanding the principles behind them. Coordination, communication, and adaptability were critical. The mission progressed smoothly, with Harper orchestrating movements that neutralized threats with minimal exposure. By the end, the enemy presence was effectively eliminated, and the area secured without any friendly casualties. Upon completion of the final operation, Harper received recognition from both his immediate commanders and senior leadership. While awards and commendations were formally conferred, the true measure of his success was the operational transformation he had effected. Units under his influence demonstrated improved discipline, strategic thinking, and combat readiness. His methods became case studies, illustrating how individual initiative and mastery of skill could amplify the effectiveness of an entire force. Harper's approach emphasized that tactical ingenuity, psychological acuity, and disciplined execution were as vital as traditional metrics of military power. In the weeks following, Harper transitioned back to base operations, mentoring new recruits and advising on strategic planning. His experiences served as a living repository of knowledge, bridging the gap between historical doctrine and contemporary battlefield realities. Colleagues observed that Harper's calm presence and methodical approach inspired confidence and encouraged critical thinking, qualities that extended beyond the battlefield into leadership development and operational innovation. The lessons he imparted were not abstract. They were grounded in rigorous experience, practical observation, and a deep understanding of both human behavior and environmental dynamics. Finally, Harper reflected on the journey from his first engagement to the conclusion of his deployment. The story of a single Marine taking out an entire platoon had initially captured attention, but the true significance lay in the enduring principles he demonstrated: patience, precision, adaptability, and the psychological dimension of warfare. These principles transcended individual engagements, influencing strategy, training, and the culture of operational excellence. Harper's legacy was not merely a tale of individual heroism. It was a blueprint for the integration of skill, intelligence, and strategic thinking in modern military operations. Before we wrap up, take a moment to hit that like button if Harper's story shocked or inspired you. Every like helps uncover more hidden battles and forgotten heroes. Subscribe and turn on notifications so you never miss a story where one soldier changes the course of history. Drop a comment below. Where are you watching from, and do you know someone whose courage deserves to be remembered? Your voice keeps these incredible true stories alive, and your support ensures Harper's legacy and the stories of countless unsung heroes will never fade into silence.